The morning sun cast long shadows across the golden wheat fields of New Eden Colony. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of his frigate, watching the farmers below tend their crops. The sight always made him smile. These people had traveled across the galaxy to build something peaceful and good. Jake had been protecting the Kepler 442 system for 3 years now. His small fleet consisted of 6 frigates and 2 destroyers, not much compared to the massive alien armadas he had heard about, but enough to keep pirates and raiders away from the colonies. "Captain, we have incoming traffic from the Henderson mining station," his communications officer called out. "Put them through, Martinez." The voice of Station Chief Bob Williams crackled over the speakers. "Morning, Jake. We just hit another vein of rare metals, the biggest one yet. This stuff will make Earth very happy." Jake nodded. The mining operations had been incredibly successful. The asteroids in this system contained materials that were worth a fortune back on Earth. More importantly, they helped fund the expansion of human colonies throughout this sector of space. "That's great news, Bob. Any problems up there?" "None at all. Everything is running smooth as silk." Jake closed the channel and turned back to watch the colony below. 300,000 people called New Eden home now. They grew food, raised families, and built communities. They trusted him to keep them safe. On the planet's surface, Dr. Mary Johnson finished her morning rounds at the colony hospital. She had delivered 2 babies last night and saved a farmer who had been injured in a harvester accident. Life on New Eden was good, but it required hard work and dedication from everyone. "Dr. Johnson," called Nurse Amy Davis as she hurried down the hospital corridor. "We just received word that 3 more families are arriving on the next transport. They'll need complete medical checkups." Mary smiled. "More people wanting to start fresh out here. I don't blame them. This place feels like what Earth must have been like before all the crowding." Meanwhile, thousands of light years away on Earth, Admiral Lisa Brooks reviewed the daily reports from the colonial frontier. Her office overlooked the massive orbital defense stations that surrounded humanity's home world. The view never failed to remind her of her responsibilities. "Admiral, the quarterly report from the Kepler colonies just came in," said her aide, Lieutenant Kevin Parker. "Production is up 18% from last quarter. No security incidents to report." Lisa nodded as she read through the data. The human colonies were thriving. In just 50 years, humanity had established settlements on 47 worlds. They focused on agriculture, mining, and research. Unlike many alien species, humans seemed content to build rather than conquer. "Any word from our intelligence networks about alien activity in nearby sectors?" Lisa asked. Some increased military movements among the Zephyrian hegemony, but nothing directed toward human space. They seemed to be having border disputes with the Korthic Union. Lisa made a note to keep monitoring the situation. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as aggressive warriors. Their fleet had conquered dozens of species over the past few centuries. So far, they had ignored human colonies, probably viewing them as too small and peaceful to bother with. Deep in space, far from human worlds, Fleet Commander Zeke studied intelligence reports about the expanding human presence. The Zephyrian officer was tall and muscular, with the traditional warrior scars marking his face and arms. His ship, the Conquest of Stars, was one of the most powerful vessels in the hegemony fleet. These humans continued to spread like insects. Zeke growled to his second-in-command. "They now occupy nearly 50 worlds in this sector." "Should we be concerned, Commander?" asked Captain Mordak. "Their ships appear primitive, mostly cargo vessels with minimal weapons." Zeke studied the tactical displays showing human ship movements. The aliens had been watching human expansion for years. Every scan showed the same thing. Simple, lightly armed vessels focused on transport and mining. No heavy battleships. No advanced weapon systems. No signs of military buildup. Look at these readings. Zekthari pointed to the display. Their largest vessels barely qualify as escorts. A single one of our cruisers could destroy their entire colonial defense fleet. The Zephyrian commander had built his reputation on crushing weak species. His fleet had annihilated the peaceful Valdari Republic in just 3 days. The agricultural worlds of the Hemini Collective had fallen in less than a week. Humans appeared even weaker than those previous conquests. Commander, our scouts report that the human colony of New Eden has discovered significant mineral deposits. Their mining operations are extracting materials worth billions of credits. Zekthari's eyes gleamed with interest. The hegemony constantly needed resources to fuel its military expansion. Taking those materials from weak humans would be much easier than negotiating trade agreements. Prepare the fleet, Zekthari ordered. We will make an example of these humans. Other weak species. We'll see what happens to those who occupy valuable territory without the strength to defend it. Back on Earth, in the frozen wastelands of Antarctica, something very different was taking shape. Beneath miles of ice and rock, the most classified military installation in human history buzzed with activity. A massive underground complex. Stretched for kilometers in every direction, Captain Ryan Mitchell walked through the main hangar bay, his footsteps echoing in the enormous space. Above him, suspended in construction cradles, hung the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. The Tempest stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapon systems that most humans had never dreamed existed. Status. Report. Commander Price. Ryan called to his tactical officer. Commander Helen Price consulted her tablet. All primary systems are online, Captain. The antimatter core is stable at full power. Weapon systems have passed final testing. The crew finished their last training simulation this morning. Ryan nodded with satisfaction. The Tempest represented 30 years of secret military development. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful farmers and miners, Earth's greatest minds had been preparing for the day when that peace would be threatened. What about our crew readiness? 5,000 of Earth's finest, Captain. Every officer has combat experience. Every enlisted person volunteered for this assignment, knowing they might never see Earth again. Chief Engineer Dan Rodriguez approached from the engine section. Captain, I've completed the final checks on our new systems. Everything is ready for deployment. Ryan looked up at his ship with pride and sadness. The Tempest was designed for one purpose: to protect human colonies against any threat the galaxy could produce. He hoped they would never need to use it. Sir, called Communications Specialist Lisa Chong. Admiral Brooks wants to speak with you. Priority channel. Ryan made his way to the Secure Communications Center. Admiral Brooks appeared on the main screen, her expression serious. Ryan, I want you to know that all 12 Hurricane-class vessels are nearing completion. The Maelstrom will be ready for deployment within the month. The others will follow shortly. After. Understood, Admiral. I hope we never have to show them to the galaxy. So do I, Ryan. So do I. The conversation ended, and Ryan returned to his ship. The Tempest was humanity's greatest secret and most powerful guardian. But like all guardians, it was only as effective as the wisdom of those who commanded it. In the Kepler 442 system, Captain Jake Morrison completed his daily patrol. His sensors showed nothing unusual. Cargo ships moved peacefully between the colonies and mining stations. Communication traffic consisted of routine business reports and personal messages between families. Captain, called his sensor operator. I'm picking up some unusual readings at the edge of the system. Jake moved to the sensor station. What kind of readings? Gravitational disturbances consistent with ships dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple contacts, big ones. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. No human ships were scheduled to arrive today, and these readings suggested vessels much larger than anything in the human fleet. "Sound general alert," Jake ordered. "All ships to battle stations. Get me a channel to the colony." As alarms sounded throughout his small fleet, Jake watched the sensor displays with growing concern. 50 contacts had appeared at the system's edge. Whatever was coming, it was far beyond anything his ships could handle. On New Eden's surface, Dr. Mary Johnson looked up at the sky as emergency sirens began to wail. The peaceful morning had suddenly become something else entirely. Something that would change everything for humanity and the galaxy beyond. The 50 Zephyrian warships emerged from hyperspace like predators entering a hunting ground. Each vessel was massive, bristling with weapons designed to crush civilizations. Fleet Commander Zeke Thari stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony world grow larger on the main screen. "Target analysis complete, Commander," reported his weapons officer. "The human defense fleet consists of 8 small vessels. Total estimated crew, less than 3,000. No heavy weapons detected." Zeke Thari smiled with satisfaction. The intelligence reports had been accurate. These humans were even weaker than expected. Their tiny ships looked like cargo haulers compared to his mighty fleet. "Open a communication channel to the human vessels," Zeke Thari ordered. "Let them know their fate." On the bridge of the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet with growing dread. His sensors showed weapon signatures that could vaporize his entire fleet with a single salvo. But he had a job to do. 300,000 innocent people depended on him. "Captain, incoming transmission from the lead alien vessel," reported Communications Officer Martinez. "Put it on screen." The image of Fleet Commander Zeke Thari appeared, his scarred face twisted with arrogance. When he spoke, his voice carried the cold certainty of someone who had never known defeat. "Human vessels, you will surrender immediately. Your colonies will be evacuated. Your mining operations will cease. This system now belongs to the Zephyrian hegemony. Comply, and your deaths will be quick." Jake felt anger surge through him. These aliens had traveled across the galaxy to steal human homes and murder human families. He activated his own transmission. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. You are in violation of interstellar law. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences." Zeke Thari laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through both ship bridges. "Consequences? Look around you, human. I have 50 warships. You have 8 cargo haulers. What consequences could you possibly deliver?" Jake cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "All ships, prepare for combat. Priority 1 is civilian evacuation. We buy them time, whatever the cost." Throughout the New Eden colony, emergency sirens wailed as 300,000 people scrambled for the evacuation ships. Dr. Mary Johnson helped load wounded patients into medical transports, while Nurse Amy Davis coordinated with the other hospitals. "Doctor, we have room for 50 more people on Transport 7, Amy called out. "Get the children first," Mary ordered. "Then the elderly and injured." In the colony's administrative center, Governor Paul Richards coordinated the massive evacuation effort. His communications board lit up with reports from across the planet. "Sir, evacuation ship Charlie 7 reports engine problems. They can't launch." "Get repair crews there now," Paul snapped. "How many people are still on the ground?" "Approximately 200,000, sir. We need more time." Paul looked at the tactical display, showing the alien fleet advancing toward the planet. Captain Morrison's tiny force was all that stood between his people and annihilation dot in space. Jake Morrison positioned his fleet between the aliens and the fleeing evacuation ships. His 6 frigates and 2 destroyers looked pathetic. next to the massive Zephyrian armada, but they were all the colonists had. "Weapons free," Jake ordered. "Target the lead vessels. Make every shot count." The human ships opened fire with everything they had. Particle beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the alien fleet. The weapons struck Zephyrian shields and dissipated harmlessly, like raindrops against a mountain. "Their shields are too strong, Captain," reported Weapons Officer Lieutenant Tim Rooks. "Our weapons can't penetrate." "Keep firing," Jake ordered. "Every second we delay them is another ship full of civilians that gets away." Zeke Thari watched the pathetic human attack with amusement. Their weapons were so primitive that his shields barely registered the impacts. It was time to show these insects what real firepower looked like. "Return fire," Zeke Thari commanded. "Destroy them all." The Zephyrian fleet unleashed hell. Plasma cannons designed to crack planetary crusts fired at the small human vessels. The first salvo struck the frigate Courage, vaporizing it instantly. 200 brave souls died in that flash of light. "Courage is gone," reported the sensor operator, his voice breaking. "No survivors." Jake gritted his teeth and continued the hopeless fight. The frigate Hope took a direct hit and broke apart, its crew compartments venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The destroyer Valiant managed to fire one last torpedo before enemy fire tore it in half. One by one, Jake's ships died. Each destruction bought the evacuating civilians precious minutes, but the cost was horrific. These were his friends, his comrades, people he had served with for years. "Captain, the New Horizon is taking heavy damage," called Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Over the intercom, "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. We're losing life support." "How many evacuation ships are still on the ground?" Jake asked. 43, sir." "Approximately 50,000 civilians." Jake made his decision. All power to engines. "Take us directly at their flagship." "Sir, that's suicide," Martinez protested. "Those people down there have children, Martinez. Families. They deserve a chance to live." The New Horizon, burning and broken, charged directly at Zeke Thari's massive flagship. The brave little ship fired every weapon it had, knowing the gesture was meaningless, but making it anyway. Zeke Thari watched the approaching human vessel with mild interest. "Destroy it," he ordered casually. Multiple plasma beams struck the New Horizon simultaneously. The ship exploded in a brilliant fireball, taking Captain Jake Morrison and his remaining crew with it. 3,000 civilians owed their lives to that sacrifice, though they would never know it. With the human fleet destroyed, nothing stood between the Zephyrians and the planet. Zeke Thari's ships moved into orbit and began hunting the fleeing. Evacuation vessels. "Commander, multiple civilian ships attempting to escape the system," reported the tactical officer. "Destroy them all," Zeke Thari ordered. "Leave no witnesses." The slaughter that followed would haunt the galaxy for generations. Zephyrian warships chased down defenseless evacuation ships filled with families. Children pressed against viewports, watching in terror as alien fighters closed in. The transport New Hope, carrying 800 colonists, took direct hits from 3 enemy cruisers. The ship broke apart, scattering debris and bodies across space. Among the dead were Dr. Mary Johnson and Nurse Amy Davis, who had stayed to help evacuate the hospital patients. Transport after transport died under Zephyrian guns. The Lucky Star, carrying mostly children from the colony schools, managed to send one final message before enemy fire consumed it. The transmission reached other human colonies, a desperate warning about the alien attack. Governor Paul Richards was aboard one of the last evacuation ships to launch. He watched through the viewport as his beautiful colony burned under alien bombardment. The cities he had helped build were being reduced to rubble. "Sir, enemy fighters approaching," reported the pilot. Paul nodded grimly. They had done their best, but it wasn't enough. At least some of their people had escaped. The colony transport shuddered under enemy fire, then exploded in a brief star of light. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Brooks received the emergency transmission in her command center. The message was broken and full of static, but the content was clear enough. The Kepler 442 system was under attack by an overwhelming alien force. "Admiral, we're losing contact with all human vessels in the system," reported Lieutenant Kevin. Parker.Lisa watched the tactical display as the blue dots representing human ships disappeared one by one. Each dot represented hundreds of lives, people she had sworn to protect. "Ma'am, we're receiving final transmissions from some of the evacuation ships," the communications officer called out. Lisa listened to the desperate voices of dying colonists. Parents saying goodbye to children. Crew members reporting their ships destroyed. Captain Morrison's final transmission, cut short by static and death. "How many got away?" Lisa asked quietly. "Preliminary estimates suggest fewer than 10,000. Survivors made it to hyperspace, Admiral. The rest." Parker couldn't finish the sentence. Lisa stared at the display showing the Kepler system. 290,000 people had been murdered in cold blood, families destroyed, communities erased. All because aliens viewed humans as easy prey. Fleet Commander Zeke Thari surveyed the destruction with satisfaction. The human colony. World burned below, its cities reduced to smoking craters. Space around the planet was littered with the wreckage of human ships and the bodies of their crews. "Record everything," Zeke Thari ordered. "I want detailed images of this destruction. Other species need to see what happens when they occupy territory that interests the hegemony." The Jefferian fleet began salvaging the valuable mining equipment and rare metals that had originally attracted their attention. The resources would fuel their continued expansion across the galaxy. "Commander, what should we do with the few human survivors who made it to the outer system?" "Ask Captain Morduk. Let them go," Zeke Thari decided. "They can spread word of what happened here. Fear is a useful tool." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Brooks stood alone in her office, staring out at the orbital defense platforms. The weight of command had never felt heavier. 290,000 people had died on her. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, massive doors that had remained sealed for 30 years began to open. The sound echoed through the underground facility like thunder. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Tempest, watching his crew make final preparations for departure. The Hurricane-class battleship was a monster. 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide, it dwarfed every other vessel humanity had ever built. Its hull was black as space itself, designed to absorb sensor sweeps and remain invisible until the moment of attack. "Status report, Commander." "Price." Ryan called to his tactical officer. Commander Helen Price checked her displays. "All weapon systems online, Captain. The antimatter core is running at full power. Our defensive screens are charged and ready. The crew has completed combat preparations." Ryan nodded. 5,000 of Earth's finest military personnel served aboard the Tempest. Every officer had been hand-picked for their skills and dedication. Every enlisted person had volunteered for a mission they knew might be their last. "Chief Rodriguez, how are our engines?" Chief Engineer Dan Rodriguez wiped grease from his hands as he climbed up from the engine compartments. "The new hyperspace drive is working perfectly, Captain. We can make the jump to Zephyrian space in 6 hours instead of the usual 3 days." The Tempest represented 30 years of secret development. While the galaxy saw humans as peaceful farmers, Earth's greatest scientists and engineers had been preparing for exactly this situation. They had studied every alien technology they could find, improved upon it, and created something entirely new. "Sir," called communications specialist Lisa Chang, "Admiral Brooks is requesting a final briefing." The main screen activated, showing Admiral Lisa Brooks in her command center on Earth. Behind her, Ryan could see the frantic activity as humanity's hidden military assets came online for the first time. Ryan, the other Hurricane-class vessels are beginning emergency activation, Lisa reported. The Maelstrom will be ready within 48 hours. The others will follow shortly after. Understood, Admiral. What's our intelligence on Zephyrian? Strength? Lisa's expression darkened. They control 47 star systems with a total fleet of over 3,000 warships. Their homeworld of Zephyria Prime has orbital defense platforms and a garrison fleet of 200 vessels. Ryan studied the tactical data flowing across his screens. The Zephyrians had built their empire through superior technology and ruthless expansion. They had crushed dozens of peaceful species over the centuries, growing stronger with each conquest. Their weapons are based on plasma technology, Lisa continued. Effective against most alien races, but our new armor should provide significant protection. More importantly, they've never faced antimatter weapons. The antimatter cannon mounted along the Tempest's spine was humanity's greatest achievement. It could destroy a city with a single shot or vaporize the largest alien battleship ever built. The secondary weapons were almost as impressive. Plasma, torpedoes, railguns, and energy beams that could cut through any known material. Captain, interrupted Commander Price, we're receiving long-range communications from the Zephyrian fleet that attacked Kepler 442. Put it on screen. The image showed Fleet Commander Zeke standing before what looked like a victory celebration. Zephyrian officers raised drinks, while holographic displays showed the destruction of human ships and colonies. In the background, Ryan could see recordings of burning evacuation vessels. Citizens of the hegemony, Zeke announced, today we have eliminated another weak species that dared to occupy valuable territory. The humans proved even more pathetic than our intelligence suggested. Their entire defense fleet was destroyed without the loss of a single Zephyrian vessel. Ryan watched as the alien commander displayed images of dead human colonists floating in space, children, families, innocent people who had only wanted to build new lives among the stars. Let this be a warning to any species that thinks they can expand into territory we desire, Zekthari continued. The Zephyrian hegemony is the dominant power in this galaxy. Resistance is futile. The transmission ended, and Ryan turned to his crew. Every face showed the same cold anger he felt. These aliens had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. Set course for the Zephyrian home system, Ryan ordered. Maximum speed. As the Tempest emerged from its hidden berth, its true size became apparent. The massive ship rose from the Antarctic ice like a black mountain. Earth's orbital defense stations, which had seemed enormous, looked like toys in comparison. Throughout the Sol system, other hidden facilities began activating. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as research stations powered up their defensive systems. Mining ships revealed themselves to be heavily armed patrol vessels. Cargo haulers deployed weapon systems that had been concealed for decades. On Luna, Admiral Brooks watched the mobilization from her secondary command center. How long have we been preparing for this day? She asked her aide. Since the first contact with hostile aliens 53 years ago, ma'am, Lieutenant Parker replied. The outer colonies were always meant to be early warning systems. Lisa nodded sadly. The peaceful farmers and miners on places like New Eden had been genuine. But they had also served another purpose, making humanity appear weak and harmless while the real military buildup continued in secret. Ma'am, we're receiving reports from all human colonies. Hidden defense platforms are coming online. Emergency. Military protocols are in effect. What the galaxy had seen as simple agricultural worlds were revealing their true nature. Underground bunkers contained weapons that could fight off invasion fleets. Civilian ships activated military-grade engines and weapon systems. Mining equipment was converted into planetary defense cannons. "The masquerade is over," Lisa said quietly. "After today, the galaxy will know what humans are really capable of." In hyperspace, the Tempest raced toward Zephyrian territory at speeds that should have been impossible. The new drive system bent space around the ship, allowing it to cross vast distances in hours instead of days. Captain Mitchell reviewed the intelligence files on Zephyrian society. They were a warrior culture that respected only strength. Their military had never faced serious opposition, crushing weaker species through overwhelming force and technological superiority. "Captain," called his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez, "I've compiled a complete analysis of Zephyrian tactics and capabilities. What's your assessment?" "They rely on massed fleet actions, sir. Overwhelming numbers of heavily armed vessels attacking in coordinated formations. Their strategy has worked for centuries because no one has been able to match their firepower." Ryan studied the tactical displays. The Zephyrians fought like predators hunting prey. They had never encountered another apex predator. "Their weakness is that they've never adapted their tactics," Sarah continued. "They've won every battle the same way for so long that they've become predictable." "What about their home defenses?" "Impressive but outdated. 200 warships plus orbital defense platforms. Against any normal enemy, it would be impregnable. Against us, ... Sarah smiled grimly. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian home system fleet, Admiral Vox then reviewed reports of the successful attack on the human colony. The operation had gone exactly as planned. Another weak species had been eliminated with minimal effort. "Admiral, our intelligence networks report increased activity." "In human space," his aide reported. "Multiple ship movements and communication traffic." Vox then dismissed the concern with a wave. "Panic, nothing more. They're probably evacuating their remaining colonies before we decide to take them as well." The Zephyrian commander had no way of knowing that sensors throughout his territory were being fooled by advanced stealth technology. Human reconnaissance ships had been mapping Zephyrian defenses for years, gathering intelligence and waiting for the day they might need it. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting a single vessel approaching our outer system," the sensor operator reported. "One ship?" Vox then laughed. "Another pathetic human revenge mission. Have a patrol squadron intercept and destroy it." But as the approaching vessel came into sensor range, the Zephyrian officers began to realize this was no ordinary ship. The readings showed a vessel larger than anything in their fleet, moving at impossible speeds. "Admiral, that ship is 3 kilometers long," the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "Mass readings suggest it's larger than our heaviest dreadnought." Vox then studied the sensor data with growing concern. The humans were supposed to be a weak, peaceful species. Where had they gotten a ship like this? "Alert all defense platforms." Vox then ordered, "Recall the patrol fleets. If these humans want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The Tempest dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, its arrival causing gravitational disturbances that registered on every sensor in the area. Captain Mitchell looked at the displays showing the enemy homeworld and its massive defensive fleet. 200 enemy vessels, Captain," Commander Price reported. "Multiple orbital defense platforms. They're powering weapons and moving to intercept." Ryan stood on his bridge, looking out at the enemy forces that had murdered nearly 300,000 innocent humans. The Zephyrians had made their choice when they decided to hunt his people. The Tempest moved through space like a dark storm cloud, its massive hull blocking out the stars behind it. On Zephyria Prime below, billions of aliens looked up at their sky and saw something that filled them with terror. A single human ship was larger than their entire orbital defense grid. Fleet Admiral Vox then stood on the bridge of his flagship, the pride of Zephyria, watching the approaching enemy vessel with growing unease. His sensors showed readings that seemed impossible. A human ship's energy output was greater than some stars. "All ships, assume attack formation," Buxton commanded. "Concentrate fire on that vessel. Destroy it before it can reach the planet." 200 Zephyrian warships moved into position around the human battleship. These were the finest vessels in the hegemony fleet, each one capable of destroying cities. Together, they represented enough firepower to conquer entire star systems. "Captain." Ryan Mitchell watched the enemy fleet surround his ship. The Zephyrians moved with practiced precision, their formations perfected through centuries of conquest. They had no idea they were about to face something completely beyond their experience. "Enemy vessels are powering weapons," Captain reported. "Commander Helen Price. They're preparing to fire." "Let them," Ryan said calmly. "Shields to maximum. Prepare the primary weapon." Deep within the Tempest, the antimatter core began feeding energy into the massive cannon that ran along the ship's spine. The weapon required enormous power, but it could destroy anything in the galaxy with a single shot. Fleet Commander Zeke Thari, aboard his flagship in the middle of the formation, felt confident despite the size of the enemy vessel. Numbers always won battles. His fleet had destroyed thousands of enemy ships over the years. "Fire at will," Zeke Thari ordered. "Show these humans the price of challenging the hegemony." Every Zephyrian ship opened fire simultaneously. Plasma beams, energy torpedoes, and particle cannons created a storm of destruction that should have vaporized any target. The combined firepower was enough to crack a planet's surface. The weapons struck the Tempest's shields and scattered harmlessly into space. The massive human vessel didn't even slow down. Its defensive screens absorbed energy that would have destroyed a dozen normal ships without showing any sign of weakening. "Impossible," whispered Zeke Thari. "Nothing can survive that much firepower." On the Tempest's bridge, Chief Engineer Dan Rodriguez reported the shield status. "Energy absorption at 12% of maximum, Captain. Their weapons can't even scratch us." Ryan nodded. The Tempest's defenses had been designed to withstand the energy output of an entire star. Primitive plasma weapons posed no threat at all. "Primary weapon charged and ready, sir," Commander Price announced. "Target the enemy flagship. Fire." The antimatter cannon unleashed hell itself. A beam of pure annihilation streaked across space, its passage causing reality itself to ripple. When it struck Zeke Thari's ship, the vessel simply ceased to exist. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface, a brief new star that marked the death of the Zephyrian commander and his entire crew. 6 nearby cruisers were caught in the blast wave and disintegrated instantly. The other Zephyrian ships stopped firing, their crews staring in shock at the empty space where their flagship had been moments before. "Secondary batteries opened fire," Ryan ordered. The Tempest's hull bristled with weapons. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward enemy vessels, while railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Energy beams cut through Zephyrian armor like it was paper. Commander Price coordinated the attack with deadly precision. Each weapon system targeted a different enemy ship. The Tempest's advanced computers calculated firing solutions faster than alien crews could react. A Zephyrian heavy cruiser exploded as 3 plasma torpedoes struck its engine section. A destroyer tried to flee, but was cut in half by a focused energy beam. An entire squadron of fighters was vaporized by a single spread of smart missiles. Fleet. Admiral Vox then watched his mighty fleet die with growing horror. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed as easily as toys. The human vessel moved through his formations like a force of nature, unstoppable and terrible. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," Vox then commanded desperately. Overload your weapons if necessary. We must stop it. The remaining Zephyrian ships poured everything they had into their attacks. Some captains pushed their weapons beyond safe limits, causing their own systems to overload. The combined assault created an energy storm around the Tempest. The human battleship emerged from the attack completely undamaged. Its shields had absorbed enough energy to power a small planet, but the defensive systems showed no sign of strain. "Their weapons are useless against us," reported Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from the intelligence station. "They're fighting with technology that's decades behind ours." Ryan watched another group of enemy ships die under his guns. Each Zephyrian vessel represented hundreds of crew members, but he felt no mercy. These aliens had murdered human children. They had hunted down evacuation ships filled with innocent families. "Captain, orbital defense platforms are powering up," Commander Price announced. "They're trying to protect the planet." The Zephyrian defense platforms were massive structures, each one armed with weapons designed to destroy invasion fleets. Dozens of them surrounded the planet like deadly satellites. "Show them what real firepower looks like." Ryan ordered the Tempest's antimatter cannon fired again, this time targeting the largest defense platform. The structure, which had protected Zephyria Prime for over a century, vanished in a flash of light. The explosion was so bright it temporarily blinded sensors throughout the system. Ryan turned his attention back to the fleet. A group of Zephyrian destroyers was trying to flank his ship, hoping to find a weak spot in its defenses. Their plasma cannons fired uselessly against the Tempest shields, while railgun rounds tore through their hulls. "Captain, we're receiving." A transmission from the enemy fleet, Communications Specialist Lisa Chong reported. "Put it through." Fleet Admiral Vox then appeared on the main screen, his proud features now showing desperation and fear. Behind him, Ryan could see smoke and sparks as his flagship took damage from the ongoing battle. "Human Commander, I am Fleet. Admiral Vox then of the Zephyrian Hegemony. I request an immediate ceasefire to discuss terms." Ryan looked at the alien who had celebrated the murder of human colonists just hours before. "You want to negotiate now? After you slaughtered 300,000 innocent people? That was a military operation," Vox then protested. "Your colonies were occupying territory we claimed. Your commander recorded the destruction of evacuation ships filled with children," Ryan replied coldly. "You broadcast it as entertainment. There will be no negotiation." Ryan cut the transmission and turned back to his crew. "Continue firing. Destroy them all." The battle, if it could be called that, continued for another hour. The Tempest moved through the Zephyrian fleet like a hurricane through a wheat field. Every enemy ship it targeted was destroyed. Every weapon they fired was useless. Chief Rodriguez reported from engineering. "Captain, we're using less than 30% of our total firepower. The enemy can't even damage our outer hull plating." The disparity in technology was overwhelming. The Zephyrians fought with weapons that humanity had abandoned decades ago. Their ships moved like they were stuck in mud compared to the Tempest's advanced engines. "Commander, Price targeted another group of enemy vessels. Firing plasma torpedo spread," she announced. 8 torpedoes streaked toward a formation of Zephyrian cruisers. Each one was guided by an AI more sophisticated than anything the aliens possessed. The weapons struck with perfect accuracy, and 4 more enemy ships died in balls of fire. On the planet below, billions of Zephyrians watched their mighty fleet being destroyed by a single enemy vessel. The orbital defense platforms that had protected their world for generations were being systematically eliminated. Their greatest military leaders were dying helplessly. "Captain, only 47 enemy ships remain operational," Commander Price reported. "The rest are either destroyed or too damaged to fight." Ryan studied the tactical display. The once mighty Zephyrian fleet was scattered wreckage. Hundreds of ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were now debris floating. In Space Fleet, Admiral Voxthin's flagship was still alive, but barely. Its engines were dead, its weapons offline, its hull breached in dozens of places. The proud Zephyrian commander made one final transmission. "You cannot do this," Voxthin gasped, his bridge filled with smoke and dying officers. "We are the dominant power in this galaxy. We have ruled for over 1,000 years." "Not anymore," Ryan replied. The Tempest's antimatter cannon fired one last time. Voxthin's flagship, along with the remaining survivors of his fleet, disappeared in a flash of pure energy. The space around Zephyria Prime was now clear of enemy vessels. Ryan looked down at the planet below. Billions of aliens who had celebrated. Human deaths now cowered in fear. Their mighty military was gone. Their orbital defenses were destroyed. They were completely helpless. "Sir, sensors detect massive population centers on the planet's surface," Lieutenant Martinez reported. "Over 8 billion inhabitants." Ryan stared at the world that had spawned the monsters who murdered human families. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Tempest, looking down at the planet that had been the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. The world that had sent fleets to conquer dozens of species now lay defenseless beneath his guns. 8 billion. Aliens waited in terror for his decision. "Open all communication channels," Ryan ordered. "I want every species in the galaxy to hear this." Communications specialist Lisa Chong worked at her station. "All frequencies open, Captain. We're broadcasting." Across the entire galactic network. Ryan activated the main transmission. His image would now appear on screens throughout known space, from the smallest trading post to the greatest alien capitals. "My name is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the Terran Hurricane-class battleship Tempest. 3 days ago, the Zephyrian hegemony attacked the human colony of New Eden. They murdered nearly 300,000 innocent people, including women and children trying to evacuate to safety. On planets across the galaxy, alien leaders watched with growing shock. The humans they had dismissed as weak farmers had just destroyed the most powerful military force in known space. The Zephyrians believed humans were easy prey," Ryan continued. "They thought we were defenseless. They were wrong. For 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this day. We built our colonies knowing that predators would eventually come for us. We were ready." In the capital city of Zephyria Prime, Cremere, Kolvash huddled in his underground bunker with the surviving government officials. The massive explosions above had shaken the entire planet. Through periscope cameras, he could see the wreckage of their once mighty fleet scattered across space. "What do we do?" whispered Defense Minister Tekmer. "Our entire military is gone. That single ship destroyed everything." "We surrender," Kolvash sighed quietly. "We beg for mercy and hope these humans are more civilized than we were." Ryan's broadcast continued across the galaxy. "Let me be clear about what happened here. The Zephyrian hegemony sent their finest fleet to destroy our homeworld. 200 warships and dozens of defense platforms attacked a single human vessel. They were all destroyed without causing any significant damage to our ship. On the trading world of Nexus Station, alien merchants and diplomats gathered around public screens. The footage showed the Tempest moving through the Zephyrian fleet, like a force of nature, destroying everything in its path. "Impossible," breathed Ambassador Veltar of the Korthic Union. "The Zephyrians had the most advanced military in the galaxy." "Not anymore," replied Trade Representative Zimara from the hegemony's former rival, the Centauri Alliance. "Look at that human ship. It's larger than our heaviest dreadnought." Ryan's message reached even the most distant corners of known space. On primitive worlds where aliens still fought with chemical weapons, village leaders watched the broadcast. On borrowed equipment, on advanced civilizations with technology that seemed like magic, scientists studied every detail of the human vessel. "Some of you are wondering if this is the extent of human military power," Ryan said, as if reading their thoughts. "It is not. The Tempest is one of 12 Hurricane-class battleships. Our shipyards are producing more. Every human colony you thought was defenseless is now revealing hidden weapons and defensive systems. The truth was spreading across human space at the speed of light. Colony worlds that had appeared to be simple farming communities were deploying weapons that could fight off invasion fleets. Mining stations revealed themselves to be heavily fortified military bases. Cargo ships activated concealed weapon systems. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Brooks watched the broadcast from her command center. Around her, the true scope of humanity's military buildup was becoming visible for the first time. Dozens of Hurricane-class battleships were under construction in hidden shipyards. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets were coming online throughout human space. "Mom, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different alien governments," reported Lieutenant Kevin Parker. "They're all asking for immediate peace negotiations." Lisa nodded grimly. The galaxy's predators had suddenly realized they were no longer at the top of the food chain. Ryan's broadcast continued. "To those species that have attacked human colonies or threatened human lives, know this: we will find you. We will destroy your fleets. We will reduce your military capabilities to nothing. Humanity is no longer prey." On the bridge of the Tempest, Commander Helen Price monitored the reactions across the galaxy. "Captain, we're receiving thousands of communications. Most are requests for peace treaties. Several species are offering tribute and territorial concessions." "And the others?" "3 alien governments are mobilizing their fleets, sir. They appear to be planning coordinated attacks on human colonies." Ryan smiled coldly. "Then they'll learn the same lesson as the Zephyrians. Mark their positions. We'll deal with them next." On Zephyria Prime, Premier Kolvash made the decision that would save his species from extinction. He ordered all remaining Zephyrian forces to stand down and open direct communication with the human ship. "Captain Mitchell, this is Premier Kolvash of the Zephyrian government. We surrender unconditionally. Please, we beg for mercy." Ryan looked at the alien leader who had celebrated the murder of human children just days before. The Premier's proud warrior culture had crumbled the moment they faced real opposition. "Your surrender is accepted," Ryan replied, "but there will be conditions. The Zephyrian military will be disbanded. Your weapons technology will be destroyed. You will pay reparations to the families of every human killed in your unprovoked attack." "We agree," Kolvash said quickly. "Whatever you demand, we will comply." "One more thing," Ryan added. "You will broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy, explaining exactly what you did to human civilians and why it was wrong. You will make it clear that humanity responded with restraint. We could have destroyed your entire world, but we chose mercy." As the Premier agreed to the terms, another Hurricane-class battleship dropped out of hyperspace. The Maelstrom, commanded by Captain Steve Carter, took position next to the Tempest. Its arrival caused panic on the planet below, but Ryan had made his point. "Steve, good to see you," Ryan transmitted to his fellow captain. "Same here, Ryan. I see you've been busy." Ryan looked at the wreckage surrounding the planet. The galaxy needed to understand what happens when you hunt humans. "I think the message is clear. Across known space, the effects of the battle were spreading. The hegemony's former enemies were claiming Zephyrian territory, while their allies scrambled to distance themselves from the defeated empire. Trade routes that had been controlled by Zephyrian force were opening to peaceful commerce." Chief Engineer Dan Rodriguez reported from the Tempest's engine room. "Captain, all systems are operating normally. We're ready for whatever comes next." "There won't be much resistance after this," Ryan replied. Every predator species in the galaxy just watched their strongest military get destroyed by a single human ship. They'll think twice before threatening our colonies again. Admiral Brooks' voice came over the secure communication channel. Ryan, we're receiving diplomatic requests from over 40 species. They want to establish trade agreements and mutual defense pacts with humanity. What's your assessment, Admiral? The galaxy's power structure just changed completely. For the first time in recorded history, a species has demonstrated the ability to project military force anywhere, anytime, against any opponent. The age of predator empires is over. Ryan nodded as he watched the second Hurricane-class ship patrol the system. Soon there would be 12 such vessels, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Humanity had revealed its true strength, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain, Commander Price reported, long-range sensors show the 3 hostile. Alien fleets are changing course. They're returning to their home systems. They got the message, Ryan said with satisfaction. On planets throughout the galaxy, alien children would grow up hearing stories about the day humanity revealed its true nature. They would learn that appearances could be deceiving, that peaceful farmers could become terrifying warriors when their families were threatened. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled through fear for over 1,000 years, would become a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating opponents. Their mighty fleets would be remembered as scrap metal floating around their homeworld. Ryan made one final broadcast to the galaxy. Humanity seeks peace, but we are prepared for war. We will defend our colonies, our families, and our way of life against any threat. To those who wish to trade and cooperate with us, you will find no better friends. To those who threaten human lives, you will find no worse enemies. The message ended, and the Tempest began its patrol of the former Zephyrian territory. Behind it, the Maelstrom took position over the defeated homeworld. Soon, more Hurricane-class ships would join them, establishing a new order in the galaxy. Captain Ryan Mitchell looked out at the stars and thought about the colonists who had died at New Eden. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not prey, but the apex predator that had been sleeping peacefully until awakened. The age of hunting humans was over forever.